My love affair for the table began when I was just 9 years old. I know, it's an unusual object of affection, but pull up a chair and I'll explain. My siblings and my cousins and I were left alone at home while our parents were away. A risky decision in hindsight. My brother, who was 2 years older than I, wanted to invite his friends over. He was just on the brink of becoming a teenager, which in my 9-year-old eyes practically made him godlike. So who was I to object? With the arrival of his friends came chaos. They rolled from the living room into the dining room where my mother's precious dining table stood. And then crash. Down came the table, its legs completely sheared off. The dining table where my mother hosted her beautiful parties and where we gathered daily for dinner was broken. Quickly realizing that we were in trouble, my brother came up with a solution. Tie the leg back on with my jump rope. No one will ever find out, he assured me. Well, that evening as we gathered for dinner, the nightmare began. I saw it first. My aunt walking over to bring something to the table leaned in to say something to my mother using her hand for a brace. It was like a slow motion movie. The table listed like a ship sinking bow first, food sliding to the floor. It was a Titanic right in our dining room. But that was not where my life lesson began. Once the commotion died down and the table was taken away for repairs, I don't remember how long it was gone, but I do remember how I felt in its absence. We were a busy family, and the dining table is one of the few times we were together during the day. With that table missing, everything changed. We were scattered from the living room to the dining room to the kitchen for our meals. The tone of the conversation shifted. We focused more on our food than on each other. And even as a child, I could feel the difference. I learned at an early age that the table is a powerful place. But don't just take the words of a 9-year-old. Travel with me to Paris in 1973, where the United States and the Vietnamese met to negotiate the end of the Vietnam War. Surprisingly, one of the largest hurdles to those negotiations was determining the size and shape of the table. Who would sit in the power seat? Who would sit next to who? And who would be hampered by sitting in a lesser seat? Those decisions took 2 weeks. And if we were honest, any one of us walking into a conference room and having to choose a seat can relate to that dilemma. As the negotiators at the Paris Peace Accord knew, the table is a powerful place. Since its emergence in early 2500 BC in Egypt, the table is where special things happen. The Egyptians used it to hold their precious possessions. The Greeks and the Romans adopted it for dining. But it was the British, as Downton Abbey will show us, who elevated that dining to a fine art. The table has always been where special things happen. Consider this. The table is where pivotal things in each of our lives have happened. The table is where marriage proposals take place. It's where we blow out the candles on birthday cakes. It's where we're invited to sit with the cool kids in the school auditorium and cafeteria if we're lucky. The table is where things can unfold in our lives that are special. But not all memories made at the table are joyous. It was at the table where I learned that my parents were divorcing. It was across the table from our doctor that my husband and I learned that he would have to have triple bypass surgery. The table holds space for both happy and challenging things in our lives. For good or for ill, the table is a powerful place. It's where life can shift on its axis in seconds. So I have a question. If, in fact, the table is such a powerful place, why have we surrendered its power? Do you think that's an overstatement? Then consider this. Why in new constructions do homes rarely have a dining room? Why in new apartments is there rarely room for tables and chairs? The family table has faded into the background, becoming a shadow of its former self. Cries for the return of the family table are growing, and with good reason. The table is where we can dine with people we never thought we'd dine with. It's where stories buried deep inside of us can unfold. And it's where peace, once thought impossible, can be brokered. And the amazing thing is, you have the power to make that happen. And how do you use that power? I have 3 suggestions. 1, tradition carries a tremendous amount of weight. Through its repetition, it reminds us who we are and how we are connected. So if the family table has disappeared from your home, be the one to restore it. Be the one who gives your family the gift of familiarity, of sincerity, and of linkages that can echo down through the generations. 2nd, expand your table. Invite those who have no one to dine with. And in an increasingly divided world, be brave, be bold, and invite those with whom you disagree. The table can enrich our lives. It can impact our perceptions and our perspectives and strengthen our communities. 3rd, what we model for our children at the table is what they carry out into the world. It's where we share our family history, our wisdom, our cultural values. It's where our children hone their voices. They do it through family discussions and spirited debate. They do it by being with us. We all do it by being with each other. The table is a powerful place. It's not just a piece of furniture. It's a living, breathing construct, essential to our humanity. Recently, my husband and I were in New York City for the weekend. On a crowded subway train, traveling to a restaurant, I noticed 3 exhausted construction workers carrying their dinners in brown paper bags. With no seats available, they sat down on the floor, spread their dinner out among them, and began to eat. Right there in the middle of a New York subway train, they created a table. It was such a quiet and human moment that I felt like an intruder just for watching. My mother's dining table could not withstand the onslaught of teenage boys. But like those New York City construction workers, a table can bind us even when life seems to be falling apart. The table is a place of sacred refuge, where we can blot out the noise of the world, connect, nurture, and heal. The table is a powerful place. Share your table with the world.